We're still looking at Standard 7, World War II, and the Cold War. We've looked thus far at how the United States got involved in World War II, and then the effects of mobilization out on the home front, up to the important battles, and how the important battles are actually going to lead to the Cold War. Today we're going to look at some of the effects of World War II. We're going to talk about some of the economic, humanitarian, and diplomatic effects of World War II, which include the ending of the Great Depression, the Holocaust, the war crimes trials, and then the creation of Israel, which is going to cause problems in the Middle East. Although the war required great sacrifice from the American people, it was a war effort that finally pulled the United States out of the Great Depression. The spending that went along with the war and the providing of jobs to people to help build war materials is what gets the United States out of the Great Depression. There were so few consumer goods to purchase during the war, workers accumulated savings that they would then spend on consumer goods once the war was ended. That's why the 1950s was such a great time period in American history economically. World War II obviously had a devastating impact on the European Jewish community. German actions against the Jews were part of the Nazi propaganda. Remember, Hitler had blamed the Jews for why Germany was in such bad shape prior to World War I. It was also based on both social Darwinism and, of course, a long-standing prejudice that people just didn't like the Jewish people that much. Anti-Semitism became the official policy of the German government. And then the program of genocide carried out by the German government ended up with the killing of 6 million Jewish people and over 5 million other types of people. Before the end of the war, the response of the United States and allies to German anti-Semitic policies was severely limited. We didn't really do anything to stop the Holocaust. The passage of Nuremberg laws and organized attacks on the Jewish people was widely reported. However, they didn't really do much to stop it. It's not like Franklin Roosevelt did much to help with that. Immigration laws were not eased to grant asylum to Jewish refugees. In fact, there's a good story of a boat that comes over here from Germany with lots of Jewish people on it, and it gets turned away, and I'm sure I'll tell you about that one in class. There's no military action taken to interrupt the shipment of people to death camps. And part of that had to do, it sounds like I'm really being negative towards Franklin Roosevelt, but a lot of that had to do with the fact that he thought the best way to stop that from happening was to defeat the Germans. The Germans would find some way to still do it even though we tried to disrupt it. And so that's kind of, so don't take it as I'm being negative towards Franklin Roosevelt because there were probably some limitations. Here are some pictures from the Holocaust, and I'm sure you've seen pictures like this before. We're not really going to get into the details of the Holocaust in this. We're going to talk more about the U.S.'s response to it. After the war, the U.S. is going to respond to war crimes, along with the other allies, by setting up trials and putting these people on trial for committing war crimes. Hitler commits suicide before that can happen, but a lot of his officers and the civilians that were part of it were charged with crimes against humanity. And many pleaded they were just following orders, but that doesn't work as an excuse. You can't just say I was following orders, so I did this thing that was awful. And so 12 Nazis were actually put to death for it. And so what it does is establish a precedent for future trials on war crimes. It's not brought an end to genocide. In fact, there's been numerous examples of genocide that have happened since World War II. But what it does is it shows that you could be put on trial for what you do during the war. One thing that also happens as a result of the Holocaust is the establishment of the State of Israel after the war. By State of Israel, I mean the nation of Israel in the Middle East. The U.S. promptly recognized Israel, and the U.S. continues to support Israel in the Middle East, and that's caused a lot of problems with other countries in the Middle East because of the Arab versus Jews. They don't really like each other. They haven't liked each other since biblical times, and so that's going to be a major problem. And so that's going to create problems up to today's current world. All right, that concludes the 7.4 video. Really what we talked about in this one was about the economic benefit of World War II on the U.S. economy, and then some of the negative things that happened through war crimes, and then the response to those war crimes, and how that sets a precedent for even today. If you haven't already, turn in the notes guide, and also take the video quiz. Thank you.